Want to get more Bitcoin? Well, one way to get more Bitcoin is by mining, and you can mine with elevategroup.io. They're in Irkutsk, so they have really cheap electricity. You can buy the miners online, and these are the miners that are currently available at the time of recording. You can track their progress, see what they're doing. Your miners are doing through the Awesome Miner dashboard, and that way everything is transparent. They publish the profits and the costs and everything publicly on the Telegram group. I do invite you to go check it out, join the Telegram group, and this might be something that you want to take up. Hi everybody, this is Crypto Rich, working with you to get rich with crypto, filling our pockets with crypto profits. I have with me Ben Fairbank. Ben Fairbank, he is the general manager of Komodo Platform.com. He is also the CEO of RFOX Labs, and we're going to be talking to him mostly about RFOX Labs, although he might put in a word in for Komodo. And I've covered Komodo loads. I love the Komodo projects. And I've also covered RFOX before, who recently had their IEO. And this video is an opportunity for us to catch up and find out on what's happening to get an update. Now, before I introduce Ben, actually, Ben, do you want to say what the tagline is for my videos? Do you want to have a go?
I can botch it.
Go on then.
I'm Crypto Rich, helping you to get rich, fill your pockets with cryptocurrencies from the backyard. There's something like that.
That's
something
right.
along those lines.
Filling your pockets with crypto profits. It rhymes.
Crypto profits,
Yeah,
right?
Pockets
Filling your
profits.
pockets
Right?
with
Yeah.
profit. Doesn't really? Yeah, it's okay. It's a near match.
And this is not investment advice. Do your own due diligence. Don't invest any more than you can afford to lose. And all I'm doing in this video and all my other videos is sharing with you what I'm discovering as I travel along on the blockchain. And Ben, thank you so much for making yourself available. Really, really appreciate it.
You're welcome. It's a pleasure to be here.
What people don't know is we've already been chatting and hanging out for about 45 minutes before we started recording.
Yep.
And I'm recording this in my back garden because it is supposed to be one of the hottest days the UK's ever today, and why not, right? Now, my understanding, RFOX, this is my understanding of, in a nutshell, of what the project is, right? Mm-hmm. You're using the Komodo blockchain because it's secure with delayed proof of work, and because it's fast and minimal fees, and because you can build chains on top of it without any issues about load or scalability and stuff. You're going to use that as the native blockchain. You've created RFOX as an asset chain of Komodo. And what RFOX does, you've had an IEO, and you've raised funds to go and take successful unique projects in the West and then bring them over to mostly Southeast Asia, certainly for now, where there is room for growth, and those models aren't here yet.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yep, that's pretty good. However, the majority of the unicorns we'd copy are from China because they have a leaner, more agile, faster growth. But yes, that's correct.
Okay, okay. So I didn't get that. And okay, so from China, and then will you also be exporting those ideas and projects to the West, or is the market too saturated?
No, I think that Southeast Asia is like a deep enough well at this particular point in time. And one of my former companies, Grab, for example, operates in 7 countries in Southeast Asia and has no inkling to move beyond those markets due to the fact that it is such a deep well. But the products and services that we do provide are borderless, and even though they're launched in Southeast Asia, they could end up expanding to anywhere in the world.
Right. Okay. And then do you want to tell us a little bit about, but I know, so I haven't asked you about your background and stuff. Do you want to start with a little bit so people know who you are?
Yeah, sure. So I've been a C-level exec globally for many years now, worked for a lot of multinationals. So I've lived and worked in 12 countries and worked for unicorns like Grab, Virgin, Ooredoo, and done mainly to do with turnarounds, operations, customer experience, all the fun stuff, and on a consultancy basis. So what I generally do is go in and do a 1-year turnaround or fix up, and then leave and go to the next contract. So we put the structures in place so that those companies can become more profitable. And about 2 years ago, I got involved with just under 2 years ago, got involved with Komodo based on the fact that I thought it was the best tech, and I had missed out on the .com boom and did not want to miss out on the blockchain boom. I'd looked at it from afar, but wanted to get involved and get my hands dirty. And as far as I was concerned, it was the best project on the market.
Right. Okay. Very good. Very good. And then, how you're the CEO of RFOX? They IEO'd, I think, 2 months ago.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. About 3
And
now. Yep.
okay. Do you want to tell us where the project is at and what's happening and what's
Sure.
coming up? This is your opportunity to inform everybody.
Sure. So we've started to build out the team a little bit more and get some more core members. We've got a lot of fringe members as well, or people that come in and help. The idea is to never really get beyond 30 people, no matter how big we actually get. The reason being the industries or the companies that we build out are going to be largely different to one another. So they require different skill bases. So how it works is we come up with a concept, we find a locally based team, we then give 20% of the equity to that particular team, give them the idea, give them the tech, help them go to market, and then we retract ourselves after 200 days, and we just remain board advisors. So that's the plan. That's always been the plan since day one. And as we said, we replicate unicorn companies. So what we've been doing is we've been bolstering and building the team. We refined and came up with the first 3 projects to build. And now we've actually started employing those people and putting the plans into action, and actually started some of the blockchain coding as well.
All right. And can you say what these 3 projects are?
Yeah. Yeah. So the first one is an equivalent to YY.com. Now, most people have never heard of that. The closest Western version would be something a bit more like a Twitch. Has video streaming, tipping, casters, games. Not dissimilar in the sense that it has a marketplace with streaming in games. They're massive. By market capitalization, they're much, much bigger than Twitch, but no one would have ever heard of them. They've really rapidly grown and expanded, and I think with the esports coming into Asia over the next few years, with it being in the Asian Games in 2022 as a medal sport, there's going to be a lot of emphasis on this particular sector. So that's the first one. Second one is equivalent to VIP Kid, which is effectively a mobile application that allows Asian students to have one-on-one lessons on demand for English. And instead of the old bricks and mortar method of having to go to a school and catering to the top 3% only, what this does is allows people to be in their living room, click, I want an English lesson, and then a person from America or the UK or Australia, we don't speak very good English though.
They don't in America either, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's true. So people from Britain can actually choose to give lessons whenever they like. So this eradicates teachers having to relocate to these Asian countries, move into these provincial areas. Yeah. At the moment, all of the offerings are saturated to the majority of the city areas where the top 3% are catered to. This allows us to roll this out across the whole region. The Chinese counterpart is already worth $3 billion in its first few years, and it's growing rapidly. And then the third one is an equivalent to Ping An. And what Ping An is one of the most profitable businesses in China, and it's an aggregator for both insurance and finance. Now you might think, what the hell is that? At the moment in countries like Vietnam, people go in and take a number and sit on often a plastic seat in a bank and wait for extraordinary periods of time to talk to loan managers. It's an antiquated system. What something like Ping An allows you to do is go on and reference quotes for loans or insurance against a number of different companies, and they take a small percentage of the transaction, whether that be a loan or insurance. So there's no real huge market dominating aggregators here in Southeast Asia. And if you think about the 3 projects that we've talked about, they're in our industry sectors, and if you combine the technology that's used, you'll see that there's a lot of crossover. So one sort of leads into another, which leads into another. For example, the first company would need streaming. Second company would need broadcasting and streaming. First one needs a marketplace. Second one needs a marketplace. Third company also needs a marketplace. So the way we build things is so that we're almost building the first company and then extending it by offering the second and the third companies. So it becomes a true ecosystem.
Wow. Okay. And I can see how each project, although there's the overlap, is distinct enough that you need different types of team members?
Oh, for sure, 100%. Yeah, they come from all different backgrounds. I mean, the edutech space is huge here in Southeast Asia, and it's got specific regulations and specific people need to be involved. Whereas the gaming and streaming is a completely different industry altogether. Ping an aggregator is more sort of signing people up and getting people on board and going around aggregating data that's already there. So they're very, very different models that require very different expertise levels and also very different funding as well. They're all grossly different in their build outs.
Right.
So,
and these are all three projects that are they have active live working models in China, and then you're taking those models and bring them into Southeast Asia.
Yes.
Yeah.
Actually, the lowest market capitalization for any of the three that we talked about is VIP Kit, worth about $3 billion. The rest of them are worth a lot more than that.
I can get the demand for VIP kids. I'm not saying there isn't for the other two. I can definitely get it for VIP kids, like no kidding. And not just Southeast Asia, how that can expand across to other non-English speaking
it's massive.
world. India, Pakistan, parts of Africa. Everybody wants English.
Yeah, but the issue's always been, and this is the issue, because I was the CEO of an English group here in Vietnam that has well over 20 schools across the country. And the issue that you have is, as soon as you go out to the provincial areas, and they were trying to crack this for a year, is how do you protect the IP? How do you stop a person teaching from their home, printing out course materials and going and just selling that from their home, and you lose all your IP. So the great part about blockchain is you can actually tie the certification and proof of study into the blockchain as well, which allows you to be able to tie in, I'm not going to give away too much, but tie in the integration of protecting your IP.
Okay.
So this is a game changer, and it's been something that the market and the countries in the region have been trying to work out for some period of time. So this allows us to be able to go forward and to really put in technology that solves these problems.
Right. And then how does the blockchain work with all of this? Why do you need blockchain?
Like, for example, one of the big issues in the region, and especially in education, is people falsifying qualifications and documents.
Mm-hmm.
So we already proved about 6 or 8 months ago, Komodo was able to successfully upload IELTS certificates onto the blockchain that can be accessed from any portal or whatever you decide to build, which means that it's privately uploaded to the actual blockchain, and it's immutable. So these people's records and data, as long as it's entered from the right sources, can actually be verified by Oxford or Cambridge when they're looking at potential scholarships or entry into their universities, without having to go through the rigmarole of having people submit these applications and forms along with the accreditation that then has to be verified. It's a long process. It's fraudulent in most cases, and we can not only do that, but also help make sure that a person has been certified and a person has, obviously blockchain isn't a be all and end all for bad inputs of data.
Mm.
But if people are, and you see this with oracles, for example, if people are penalised for inputting the wrong type of data, or they lose trustworthiness from putting in the wrong data, it blows the whole system out of the water. So what you want is you want to understand that they're valid inputs, that a reputable school that's licensed is actually putting in the grades or the scores. It can be written to the blockchain, accessed through many means, so that it's not publicly available, but to the people who need to gain access to make decisions. And this is something that is very much a way of being able to say, has it been manipulated, has it been changed, has it been verified, and it's immutable. It's there forever.
Wow. Okay. And then I can also get, like with the coins, because RFOX is a coin, not a token. It has its own blockchain that can be used for payments.
Yes, absolutely. So the marketplace that we build for the games and streaming and all the rest of it, I don't want to, again, give away too much, but for example, if you went in and utilised whatever it is, the product or service, or you wanted to join or whatever, we can offer RFOX earned by time-based usage, as well as also sign-ups and all the rest of it, that can then be used as a form of currency across the ecosystem. So if people want to, for example, go in and play one of our games, and we say if you play X hours, you get X currency in RFOX, that could then be used towards paying for English lessons. So this would be utilised across anything that's available in the marketplace. So it does make it a truly differentiated use case.
Okay. Now, if we use the English one as an example, because I can understand that pretty
Yeah,
clear,
sure.
right? Supposing you living in Vietnam, you want to learn English.
Yep.
Might be, and no casting no aspersions on your English, Ben. All right.
Okay, that's good. Giving me a complex.
So you sign up with this project.
Yep.
You would pay them money in fiat.
Yes.
Actually,
the one thing that's important to know about all of the projects is we're trying to make help with blockchain mass adoption. So ultimately speaking, we want the users of the services to interact the way that they currently do. So what I mean by that is fiat based. So we want people to switch to a better, faster, stronger, cheaper version of what they're currently used to using, and not have to go through the rigmarole of understanding, how do I buy coins? How do I use a wallet? How do I get onto an exchange? We're bypassing all of that and saying they're traditional front-facing businesses with blockchain driving the technology at the back end, with all of the payments and the processing being done out of plain sight to the end user.
Okay, all right. So then that all happens in the back end. The company have assessed me that I can teach English, given that I live in Britain. I speak proper English.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I give you the lesson.
Yep.
And you learn how to say cup of tea properly.
Yeah.
And then how do I get paid in coins or in fiat?
No, in fiat.
But what happens in the back end then? What's the company doing?
I've got to be a little bit guarded with that, because otherwise I see your eyes, your beady little eyes. You're saying, I'm going to go and start up my own. I think it's fairly safe to assume that you can join the dots. But the thing is that things, especially if you've got liquidity, the transferring of coins from a liquid coin into a fiat currency is already being tackled in many ways that are commercially available now. And this allows us to be able to do fiat to fiat, and using this as a out of sight or in the back end.
But wouldn't it be easier, simpler to pay me in a cryptocurrency, even if it was converting the RFOX to? I was about to say Litecoin, but really I should say Komodo.
I mean, long term, that's a really romantic vision, and that's a vision that we would hope would come to fruition. And we think that with more adoption, that will get closer and closer to being realised. But at this particular point in time, for example, you can't utilise in Vietnam, for example, you cannot replace any currency transaction with something that is not the local currency, like Vietnamese dong. So you can't pay for a good or a service using cryptocurrency. You can buy the coins, you can trade them, you can speculate in them, but you can't actually use them as a form of currency.
Because the government restricts it?
Yep.
Okay.
It's not allowed. It's
not
a legal
no business could accept it, like Japan.
And you've got to take it exactly. And you've got to take into consideration that if these are supposed to be rapidly scaling businesses, that you'd have to literally say, can't do it there, can do it here, can't do it there, can't do it, can do it here. So we've got to be very, very mindful to build a system that is compliant and able to be rolled out and is regulatory compliant across a number of different countries and across borders. But with the hope that you've got like the blockchain technology in the background, in the back end. So with the hope that this sort of progresses and we get to the stage where everyone's using coins and all the rest of it. So the idea it's not to eliminate coins altogether. The usage is in the background, but for the front-facing customers, we think the fastest way to mass adoption is to make sure they don't even understand that they're basically interacting with blockchain at all.
Right. Okay. All right. Now, it's completely fascinating, and I'm sure there's sort of like particular specific challenges to each different project. But
they're all very, very different.
that will also mean that there's particular specific risks. Now you're going to set them all up, get them, hire the team, get them all going for 200 days, then be as advisors. They could
Mm-hmm.
fail.
Of course, every startup could fail, but the thing is that startup studios, or venture builders, as they're called, have proven to a high level of success that the 1 in 10 startups that does make it through on average globally, some reports say as low as 7% of startups make it. What we're actually doing is we're actually replicating unicorn examples of startups who have been extremely successful. So it's not like you're going out and saying, I'm going to do what Chainlink's doing or something, and try and do something, a decentralized version of Oracle's that hasn't been done before, and this is how we're going to tackle the problem. What we're saying is we're going to do something that's already a proven model that we know works, where we know there's demand for it in another region. So it flips the rate of success and risk on its head. And at certain stages of Rocket Internet's history, it's clocked along at a 90% success rate due to its formulaic approach. So it takes a lot of the risk out of that. But in answer to your question, like, I can sit here and talk about how we'd structure the aggregator, for example, as a third project, but I know that the technology, and even in Komodo, it moves so fast that the way that we tackle that 600 days from now, for example, could be completely different to the way that we would tackle it today, sitting here right now. I mean, you look at Antara comes out, it's a game changer from the perspective of being a smart chain framework. It's a game changer, and you've got Composer, and you've got lots of these wonderful elements that Komodo is now introducing. I'm sure that by the time we get around to solving some of the problems in front of us, there'll be different solutions that we can choose from to help us do that. So we don't pretend for 1 second that we have the answers for how we're going to do something a few months out. We're 100% focused on trying to get things that we're doing now working and make the models make sense and stack up. Even 6 months from now, we in retrospect could have been thinking we would have done it differently if we had our time again.
Right. Okay. Very good. And just to mention Antara, I've by the time this goes out, I will have posted an interview with Satinder from the Komodo team. We talk about Antara, which is, I can't believe the stuff Komodo comes up with. I really like it's not possible. It's not possible to do that, right? Which is a way of building your own blockchain in a matter of minutes, and just makes it like a Lego sort of blockchain, a Lego kit.
Someone said to me today, and I think I've used this example on your show before, but for people who haven't seen it, I've said, I walked into Komodo and there's 100 parts on a table, and I said, what is that? And they've said, well, this part here is called this, and this part here is called this, and this part here is called this. And I said, great, that's amazing. And you've explained all the parts so well, but what does it do? And it took me ages to work out, using a metaphor, that they were all pieces to a watch. And if I put a face and a band on it, people would say, now I understand it. Now I know what it is. But those parts that you've created have made that a watch that's far better than what's available on the market. It's higher resolution, or it's more robust or more secure, whatever it is. But the interesting part is people's criticism is there's too many names and there's too many parts and I can't keep up with it. And the whole idea of someone like RFOX is to come along and say, we're the company that puts a watch face and a band on it and takes it out to the public, and our job's to say this is what it is and this is what it all does. But to think that, and to reverse that analogy or metaphor, people aren't going to go into a watch shop and say, look at 100 parts that are inside of it and say, what are they called? And they say, well, none of them have names. I mean, each of those parts has a function, plays a role, and can be used for many different things. And I think that Antara makes it so that the person can come along and say, which watch face and which band do I want to put on this?
Yeah.
I can put it together myself, and I can have some liberty and freedom in the way that I put it together, and I can do it relatively simply. So a person who's like myself, a tech tard, can come in and say, how does this work? And I can figure it out pretty quickly. Whereas we go back a year ago, that wasn't the case.
Yeah, that's very good. And I think of something like a GUI for HTML or some other coding language that even tech tards like you and I, like complete goofuses when it comes to tech, it's a graphic user interface, and then we can just, like, I suppose, like using a Word document. There's
exactly.
Programming in the background with that, or Excel spreadsheet, but we know how to do that. It's simple enough for people like you and I.
Because no one actually at the user level cares how it works.
Yeah.
And the thing is, blockchain's progressed a lot, and the guys from Komodo, I've got to give them a lot of credit because, and this is why I've enjoyed working there, is because you can say, what is that? And what does it do? And someone could be explaining an element from a toaster, for example, and they'll explain it to you. And then you'll say, but what does it do? And they'll go, I just told you what it does. And you'll say, yeah, but what does it actually do? And what we were missing is it actually is a crucial element or part of a toaster that toasts your bread. They're talking about what it actually does, and no matter how many times you ask, it'll just get a louder response. It's an element. I've told you what it does, and you're thinking, how do I sell that? How do I go out and talk to people about what that does? You're explaining it in a way you understand. I don't understand what it's used for, so explain it to me in more simplistic terms. And I think that Komodo's gotten very good in the last year at being able to say, okay, this person's coming and asking, that's for a toaster, mate. Oh, for a toaster, okay. So it's gotten a lot better now as far as the back end people and the programmers and coders at the deepest level being able to communicate with the front people because of the fact that there's people in the middle that are translating all this for us, which has been no easy feat.
Yeah, very good. Okay, and then looking at one of the elements of the whole RFOX project is the RFOX coin. So if I'm not using VIP kids or whatever, I'm not in Southeast Asia, what is the point of the coin for me?
Yeah, great question. And the good part about it is, I don't know if you've seen the latest releases for Komodo, but Komodo's latest releases allow us potentially, and I'm not saying this is 100% for sure, but it allows us to take a percentage of the RFOX coins and then effectively through a couple of step process burn those coins and mint new coins, which would be the coins that would be used for the next project. So the supply for RFOX would be reducing, and I would be creating coins for the new project as a result of from that. So there's lots of this is just one of the many options that we have, but the technology is progressing so fast with Komodo, and it's mind blowing that we can go into a model where we reduce the current supply of the RFOX and we increase the demand because effectively all of the coins and all of the projects that are built out under RFOX are utilising our little ecosystem, which is now possible.
Wow,
so,
okay.
Yeah, so this becomes, for example, you think about it, I mean, what are people, we looked at the way that some of these VCs are doing valuations on the companies now, and they're doing it on transactions. And the thing is that if we're talking about high adoption, fiat-based real-world businesses that have huge numbers of transactions, that is transactions that are all going through RFOX's system, and they're transactions that are going towards the RFOX ecosystem. So that makes it the transaction value very, very high.
Right. Okay, so then each of these, using these three projects that you're working on currently, could have its own coin.
Yep.
And that comes from converting RFOX. And then
That's one of the possibilities.
That's one of the possibilities. And then what happens with RFOX is that you guys may, because you haven't said that you will, you can, you've said, burn those coins, thus reducing the supply. Now, is this something that you're definitely going to do? How will people know? Are you just saying this just to lead on, Ben?
No, we're still looking at it, to be honest, because the other option is that we can use the RFOX coin for the other projects. There's plenty of options for us now, and that's the thing that sort of, people had always said, what about side chains? What about child chains? What about all of this stuff that we're hearing that the other platforms have? I mean, Komodo can basically do anything that you can put your mind to. It's a matter of programming. So ultimately speaking, the reason I sound a little bit ambiguous is because we're tackling each project as it comes along, and we have the wonderful freedom and flexibility of knowing that in the world of Komodo, things change very, very quickly. And when we want to remain agile, it's part of our business philosophy as well. Like I said, never get more than 30 core members. Part of our philosophy is to make sure that we are not locking ourselves into something at the expense of what could be a much better technology that we could be using to solve that particular problem or equation. So we understand our core structure, we understand the models because we're building businesses that have proven models, so we're replicating that, and we know what blockchain technology can and cannot do. But the part that's unanswered and the part that's exciting about being unanswered is there is the moving piece of exactly how we're going to tackle that little piece, and that's where we've got where we're proud to say we're not going to lock ourselves into one particular way of doing it, but we have an obligation to the people that have invested in the coin to make sure that we're doing things that promote the use case and usage for those coins and make them more appealing. And that's something that we spend a lot of time and effort on doing, and we'll make sure that we get those decisions right. And we can even there's plenty of things we can do. We can use ecosystem coins to be able to either burn or purchase or buy into these future projects. We can even burn some of those suppliers. So once we've come out with a definitive decision on how we do that, we'll communicate that publicly, of course. But it's very, very nice, and this is something that people don't realise. If I was on another technology platform,
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have any dilemmas. I'd have one path that I can go down, and that would be it.
Yeah, yeah.
So for me to be able to have 3 or 4 options, all which increase the utility and demand for the coin at our fingertips, I'm sure we'll get lots of people from the grandstand saying you should do it this way, or you should do it this way, or you should do it this way. We'll take a balanced approach. We'll make the best business decision for both the commercial side and also the coin, and we'll make sure that we do what is best for everybody involved. And we will take our time and make no apologies for doing that and getting it right.
Very good. Okay, that's okay. Thank you for that. And it all depends upon the needs and the demands of each different project, and what might work here, might not work there. And then you've got flexibility to create and adapt with whatever is wanted and needed with that project. Okay.
And we've got teams of people coming in who are specialists who will come in as co-founders and run those projects. They also don't want to come into a pre-built prison-like environment where they feel like they have no input, structure, and flexibility. And the wonderful thing about this is we bring them in and we give them 20%, but we also give them creative freedom. So they'll be able to also have a say in what their structure looks like.
Great. Okay. Now, if somebody wants to, because you've had the IEO, if they want to get some RFOX coins, having done their own due diligence, how would they go about doing that? Is it available in exchanges now? Is it going to be an
Yes. Yep. So we did our IEO on Coinial. It is still trading on there for the moment. We've been registered on Liquid now, which is an extremely compliant and legitimate exchange. Doesn't do a huge amount of volumes at all for a lot of the altcoins, but it will pick up for sure, because it's a Japanese stock exchange listed company. It's a unicorn business, extremely legitimate. We're now being listed, by the time this video goes out, we'll already have been listed on P2P, B2B. We have several other exchanges that we've already been approved for, and it's just a matter of getting the integration done. One thing I will say on that, a lot of people say, we thought we should be on a better exchange by now, or we should be on this, or we should be on that exchange. There's 2 elements. One, the startup dilemma of, do you pump all your money into building good products and services that create revenue streams? Or B, do you pump all of your money into the coins and not have much money for developing? I've been into the exchange listings because they're ridiculously expensive with a heap of fake volume. So you take a punt that you're not going to have any development funds left. So we've been slow and steady because we did get a lot of approvals up front. But we are also at the mercy of the exchanges. They have schedules, IEOs that they're trying to facilitate and cash in on while the market's still there. And the other thing that we have to take into consideration is Komodo is a native technology. So what happens is some of the exchanges, unless they've either got Komodo or Zcash on them, have to go through a learning process of how to integrate the technology on. And from what I can see, most of the exchanges don't really have enough developers. Most of them are constantly looking for new developers that can do those integration pieces.
Right. Because they don't know. It's not like putting in an ERC20 token or anything like that. Okay. All right.
No.
Okay. And then you are the general manager of Komodo.
Yep.
You're the CEO of RFOX. And then I know and you're just on the IEO, and you're building this project and these businesses you've got inside this project, the RFOX project. Mm-hmm. How can you do both without costing both? Because I know how busy CEOs are when they've just got one project, and it's not like Komodo's a small thing.
No, it's not at all. Komodo's massive, and I think the thing is that there's plenty of examples of people like your Elon Musks and all the rest of it. Not that I'm likening myself to him, but there's many people out there that control 3, 4 companies. It's a matter of your structures and your process and how you do that. But let's look at this logically. We've got Komodo, which is an open source desktop consensus-driven, decentralized project, right? So much like I always liken it to a Linux in the sense that it's open source and available to everyone in the that's the commercial reference I use. The thing is that a lot of my job was going out and educating people on what the tech could do. And as I've said a million times, some of these people from Ethereum or EOS might have had a couple of symbolic products that they'd take out in their salesperson's briefcase, and they'd open it up at a table and they'd set it all up and they'd show how it works. Whereas we were going out and talking more about things that hypothetically could do this and hypothetically can do that. So I was spending a lot of time trying to convince people what we could do and how we could do it, and to get on and use our products. And then a lot of the businesses turned in the bear market to talking about the blockchain tech. So they would say, can you sign NDAs with us? Can you do a partnership with us? Can you do this with us? Can you possibly look at doing that with us? And we thought it was high time to look at almost an extension of the business, but keeping it very, very separate as a separate company and a separate project, was to say Linux now needs its Red Hat. It now needs a company that can come along and build out enterprise level products and services and build businesses on the technology. And for that to happen, that needs to be something completely different. And why it needs to be different is Komodo has 2 choices. You can either regulate it, make it a money-making machine, destroy the current culture and what it stands for in the fabric of its whole community, which is that's something that nobody wants. Or as a separate company, you can go out, register it, regulate it, make sure it's incorporated, have revenue streams, and then funnel some of those funds back into Komodo to continue ongoing development and ensure that the ecosystem thrives and stays alive and is able to build out and flourish in the ways that it should. So we see ourselves as being completely complementary, and because we're only building on Komodo's tech, a large part of our day is learning what the tech can do, what we can actually integrate, what products and projects we're capable of actually building and implementing with. So I don't see this as being, although it's 2 completely separate businesses, I see this as a natural flow. And a lot of what I'm now doing for RFOX Labs, I was already conceptualizing and trying to work out how to do on the Komodo side. So I think, to be honest, from the Komodo side, it's made the role easier. And from the RFOX side, it's just a lot of hard work trying to set the framework and the foundation up. And don't forget, the companies that we build will be run by experts in those fields. All I have to do is come up with an idea of how to apply the technology into a real world business that exists, put a team to task, and then boom, move on to the next one. So realistically, it's not like I'm doing 2 completely diametrically opposed businesses that require completely different types of attention and focus. They're 2 businesses that both offer the same tech.
Right.
One builds and makes the tech. The other leverages and builds on the tech.
Right, I got it. Okay, so there are 2 separate businesses. So it's not even like, and in some ways, although they're separate businesses, I can get it like as RFOX as part of the Komodo division, or a division within Komodo, although a separate business, but certainly the Komodo umbrella and close. With Komodo.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, if you look at Verus, even, you know how the ecosystem works. And for those who don't know, Verus was a fork of Komodo.
And just like that, my computer shut down. And that was the end of the interview. So I just really apologize for that. There was only one question left for me to ask. And also I want to thank Ben for giving up his time. This is actually our 2nd attempt at an interview, because the first time got cancelled because there was a power cut where he was. And here what happened, I think my computer got too hot and it just shut down. So I just really, really apologize. And all I was going to ask him is, if people want to get involved, what should they do? Well, what they should do is go to redfoxlabs.io, and I shall link to that in the description below, and they could check it out, the different aspects, and find out what this project does, do their own due diligence. Here is the RFOX Lab black paper, not called a white paper, but a black paper. If you want to get involved in the conversation, you can I'll have a link to the Telegram group and all the other stuff in the description below, and the Twitter feed. Comments, questions, have you invested in RFOX Labs? What do you think of it? What do you think of VIP Kids? I'll also have links to those projects so you can see what the original projects are like. And between now and when I see you next, please keep filling your pockets with crypto profits. This is Crypto Rich, and that was Crypto Bitcoin Benny. All the best. Bye-bye.